Before we start adding our assets, let's take a moment to see how to best work with guides when working with artboards. I'll show my rulers by using the keyboard shortcut Command R, and then I'll right-click in the ruler area and make sure that they're set to pixels. If I have a single artboard selected and I drag a guide out from a ruler, we can see that it only appears on top of that artboard. I'll use Command Z in order to undo that, and then I'll select all of the artboards by holding down the Shift key and drag out a guide, and we can see that that guide now crosses over all of the artboards. But what I actually want is I want to create a margin around each one of these artboards, so I'll use Command Z in order to undo that. Go to the View menu and then choose New Guide Layout. I want to target the selected artboards, actually all of the artboards, but they happen to all be selected. And then I'll add a margin of 180 pixels on the top and bottom and 70 pixels on the left and right. Now that I'm ready to add the assets, I'm going to target this first artboard by clicking on the layer within that artboard. I'll return to Bridge and I'll double-click in order to open the assets.psd file. I'm going to put all of these different layers into a single group, so I'll select them all and then use Command G in order to group them. I'll then drag the layer group on top of the ki.psd file, which will pop it to the foreground. I can then release this group on top of that first artboard, and we can see the group in the Layers panel. I'll go ahead and reposition all of the layers in the group so that the top of the photograph meets the top of the guide. Then let's take a look at all of the individual images within the group. I want to move some of the photos to the different artboards. Now we're going to need to do this by either dragging from one artboard to another or by moving them on the Layers panel. So let's hide the wave layer for a moment and display the rocks layer. I'll select the Move tool, click in the artboard, and then drag and drop it to the second artboard. We can see in the Layers panel that it's actually been moved from the artboard group to another artboard group. Now I'll view the wave, and this time I'll drag in the wave.jpg layer up to the Ki3 artboard. Now I want to put the logo as well as the sign up and the sign in layers on all three of the artboards. So I'll select them in the Layers panel, and then before option dragging them to the other layers, I'll go ahead and reposition it so that the sign up and the sign in are along the bottom guide. Then holding down the option key, I'll drag it in order to duplicate all of these assets to the second artboard. Then I'll reposition them above the image, and then I'll do it again, hold down the option key, and then drag in order to create the third duplicate. Now I just want to rearrange these a bit, so I'll scroll down to the first artboard, I'll select the logo and just reposition that a little bit higher. I'll leave the second artboard just the way it is, and then scroll up to the third artboard, again selecting the logo, and this time repositioning it in the upper right. Then I'll choose File, Save As. I'll add an _01, saving it into the Artboards folder as a layered Photoshop file. So as you can see, artboards make it very easy to lay out multiple designs within the same document in Photoshop.